This is Cybersound, your simplified and fundamentals-focused source for all things cybersecurity, with your hosts, Jason Pufall and Stephen Maresca.
Welcome to Cybersound. I'm your host, Jason Pufall, joined, as always, by Steve Maresca and Matt Fasaro. Hey guys.
Hey, everyone.
So no guest star today. I feel like we did a bunch of episodes in a row. We had guest stars.
Yeah,
so
just the three of us.
Just the three. So our monthly news segment, and I think there's at least one thing certainly that's making a lot of headlines, and that's the potential hostile takeover of Elon Musk and Twitter. And maybe on the outside it doesn't feel like there's much in the way of implications there, but certainly social media platform, large user base, potential ability to I don't know if I want to say control the way people think, right? But certainly influence the way people think, right? There's some things there we have to think about.
Yeah, I mean, Steve made a good point this morning when we brought it up briefly. It's not done yet. Right?
Not done yet.
We'll see what actually happens after shareholder meeting, but
right, there are a lot of headlines that say Elon Musk acquires Twitter. No, not quite yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, the number is crazy, right? I mean,
crazy.
So was it 44 point something billion?
I thought it was 54. 54
I
billion?
think it was 40 something billion.
Okay.
So, but still, I think YouTube was bought for what, 1.8 billion by Google. It's just a nuts number to me. But anyway.
But what service would you rather have? YouTube or Twitter, right?
And I don't know these days. I think YouTube probably makes more money than Twitter.
I have to imagine.
Sure. But I guess from our security angle on this, I don't know. I think what people are probably more worried about is someone like Elon Musk just suddenly having control over the world's forum, if you will.
Well, he stated his opinion as being sort of a free speech absolutist, meaning everyone can come to the table, and free speech has never really meant that in application.
Yeah.
So chaos can result, and I think that's what a lot of the secondary hubbub tends to be about on this subject. Absolutely, the return of unpleasant subjects and volatile personalities to Twitter is of high concern, and especially in the sphere of cyber warfare and geopolitical concerns. They actually impact public discourse, and no one knows exactly where it will go if he does actually fulfill some of those stated philosophical opinions about the platform.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what changes there. I mean, at the end of the day, maybe nothing changes. Who knows? Maybe he just wanted to do that. But I know there's a mass exodus going on as far as employees. Who knows what that means for stability and however that whole platform is managed could just fall apart, right?
I know a lot of Twitter users would say, hey, $40-something billion, if that gets me an edit button, I'm satisfied.
If that gets me an edit button. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, but yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen what this actually means for everyone as far as that goes. But
yeah, I mean, I think we just watch it, and maybe in June or thereabouts we return to it and say this turned into nothing, or oh boy, it's terrible. So
there's meaningful impact to us to some degree. Twitter is a fantastic resource for really early alerts about something actionable in the security sphere.
Yeah.
If it produces an exodus of high quality users like that affects us literally. But more in general, I think the message is, well, pour some water on the headlines. There's some time.
Yeah. And I'm not that worried about the exodus because I feel like they'll land somewhere. So if it's not Twitter, then I just go to a different platform and get probably that same information. So maybe, and I agree with you. Right? Probably time to move away from the Twitter discussion already. The other bit of news that I think is interesting is the idea of bringing the CVE model, right? The common vulnerability exposures model that I think a lot of at least security and maybe IT practitioners are used to seeing for flaws in operating systems and applications, et cetera. Extending that a little bit more toward the cloud space, and I think giving some visibility there. And I think it's right to have a push there, right? There's this. I think there's a sense misguided sense that, hey, I've moved my workload to the cloud. I no longer have to worry about security, right?
And the big thing behind that is that MITRE, the organization that issues CVE identifiers, at the moment doesn't really designate identifiers that are deemed to be the responsibility of cloud providers.
Right.
And that's the general gist of this. But CVEs in general as a scheme are a little long in the tooth, 22 years old or something to that effect. And most of the time, folks in IT, folks in actual IT operations or security operations are frankly struggling with simply how to make sense of the material, sense of the information, and prioritize appropriately. There's a lot of ground here that could be improved. I'd certainly welcome something for cloud providers because
it's nothing. The only process that's there right now that I suppose is not even really sanctioned by anyone is they will let us know if they're affected by a CVE.
Yeah, voluntary disclosure, right?
Yeah, so they don't have their own designation at all. And it's a good point that, it would be nice if there was a record, even if they did completely mitigate that. If there was some type of data breach that gets found, maybe even years later, who knows? It'd be nice to have this stuff documented so that we know about it.
Right. I have some other, tactical issues with CVEs. They're often published they're disclosed months after they were actually created, which is a reasonable thing in many other areas. So I don't want anyone to think that I'm advocating about immediate disclosure. That has a
responsible disclosure
box.
has a very good place.
But all the same, there are a great number of CVEs that have zero information attached to them. There needs to be a balance struck, and most of the time it's biased towards PR, in my opinion, and not necessarily effective defense. So anything that really increases the odds of a defender to actually make good decisions is something that I perceive as a positive move.
So the time frame of this, though, do we have clarity on that? I mean, it looks like they basically brought a group together to start discussing how this might look, how it might work, and what the implementation process might be, right? So there's no timetable of, hey, we'll see this in a year.
No, this is going the usual route of like a request for comments and committee-based decision-making. There are several consortia like the Cloud Security Alliance and so forth that are getting together with big players to talk about it, but it's more
of the community has a consensus that this is probably a good idea. Now let's put something together.
Exactly. It's on the horizon, but no real expected delivery or arrival.
Right. So speaking of CVEs then, I think at least one of you put on the list, talking through one specific CVE, the psychic signatures in Java. And I'll be transparent. I read through it quickly, and it's probably best if one of you two address it.
Yeah, I mean, talk about long disclosure times.
Yeah.
So this is a CVE that what was it?
Sometime in November. Yeah,
November 11th of last year, 2021. The issue was found. It was not fixed until April 19th, 2022. Discuss. It appears this is a bug with Java having to do with it's a certain type of signature, right? They're called ECDSA signatures. I'll say the jargon. Basically, it's just a signature for verifying certain data activity, right?
Right, and the bug, in a nutshell, would enable an attacker to effectively forge some types of SSL certificates, the thing that protects HTTPS and things of that nature, to convince a reliant secondary party that they're interacting with something legitimate. Right. So we're talking about attacks of deception, interception attacks, things of that sort.
Yeah, and it looks like this particular problem was an issue across Java 15, Java 16, 17, and 18. So the recommendation right now is to get them all out of production and upgrade. That's going to be a challenge. So for those of you that don't know, typically Java stacks like this, you'll find them in kind of huge types of applications these days. You don't see it too much in your one-offs anymore. You're going to find them in like student information databases, large HR types of applications.
Identity federating platforms, things of that variety.
Usually things that are kind of important, and they're not changed out very often for a good reason because they're complicated, expensive, and
You mean payroll processing on a a Java stack that's vulnerable to this might be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think really the moral of this whole story is just get the heck off Java.
Yeah. And it just seems like there's always a new Java CVE.
Yeah, I mean, they come constantly. There's either performance issues or security issues with it. I don't necessarily have much faith in Oracle making this a better platform anytime soon. So I'm ready to sunset it on my own. But
I got a lot of flack internally earlier for saying distorting the usual Java mantra, write once, run anywhere, to be write once, exploit anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And I do want to counter Matt a little bit. Enterprise runs on Java. It's not going away.
yeah,
COBOL's still around. Java will be around with the same sort of timeline.
I don't disagree there.
Realistically, though, because of Java's ubiquity, we have issues like the Log4j issue or the Spring4Shell problem recently. These are fundamentally in the underlying big infrastructure of the internet and most large companies, and extinguishing these bugs is very challenging. Here are some reasons. You may encounter a server that runs multiple different versions of Java simultaneously in parallel because it's supported in almost an expectation. Therefore, actually rooting out every little component is a major issue.
Yep.
Java's embedded in devices. It's embedded in applications that are deployed without the actual IT department having any awareness that Java is present in it. So actually fixing these problems takes an enormous amount of effort.
Yep. Yeah, it goes back to our conversations that we have quite often on this podcast, or making sure you have inventory of these things so that when the next Java thing comes up, you at least know where it is, what you got to address, and have a plan.
I think that just to summarize the exact problem, because it's a little abstract for many audiences.
Yeah, that's why I saved it for last.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with the Doctor Who series, long-running British sitcom / sci-fi / drama, whatever you'd like to call it, depending upon the season, the Doctor has a tendency to hold up a blank identity card to say whoever he wants to be at that moment and induces belief in the observer. And that's being passed around as a somewhat tongue-in-cheek way of representing what this bug does. Essentially, it allows an attacker to claim that they are whomever they wish to be. And as you might imagine, when identity is used to gate access to data, to systems, to grant privileges, that's a major issue. So I would expect that this one has a long tail. We'll still be talking about it, at least in vulnerability reports, for another couple of years.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if there's any public data disclosures that happen because of this. I'm not personally aware of any that are directly related back to this, but I'm sure they're going to come out now that this article's out. So.
Yeah, and if people don't care about the psychic signature, they at least start watching Doctor Who. Right.
Final comment for me in a less joking manner. Oracle gave this a score, a common vulnerability scoring system score of 7.5, which is, in our estimation, wildly inappropriate.
Wrong.
Yes.
Very wrong.
Various other entities in the security sphere and peer researchers have definitely escalated this up to the top of the scale. You should treat it organizationally as such as well.
Yeah, that's good advice. So, normally we say, if you want further discussion around this, hit us up on Twitter or LinkedIn. And of course we want to be followed there, but I'm not sure there's a whole lot to talk about, with the Twitter acquisition or, the CVE stuff that might be a year plus out. So, as always, we hope you got some information out of this, and certainly pay attention to the Java vulnerability.
And if there's topical news out there that you want to hear us talk about, feed it our way.
Yeah, that's fair. We're always looking for input there. So as always, thanks for listening. We appreciate it. And look for future episodes.
Stay vigilant. Stay resilient. This has been Cybersound.